We got Brandon Royval back here on the program. Of course, he's going to be fighting Charles Johnson coming up here at LFA 48 on September 7th. Brandon, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you asking, and it's good to catch up with you again. And, of course, I want to start things off here with the fact that I was on Instagram and I saw that you were training with Donald Cerrone. How cool was that?
Oh, man, I totally thought you were going to ask about Scott Parker first. That's hilarious.
Okay.
I thought you were going to ask about the hockey legend Scott Parker, but yeah, man.
We can
Donald
get to that
Cerrone's
after, but let's talk about Cowboy first, obviously. But,
right? Cowboy, obviously, me and him didn't train one-on-one. He's way big for me, but seeing him in the room at Factory X is always awesome. And that's like the greatest part about training at Factory X is some days you'll walk in and you're like, holy shit, that's Donald Cerrone right there. Like, what is he doing here?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think he's going to be around town for a little bit. He has that fight in Colorado, so I'm looking forward to being in the same room as him. Is always an exciting, bring the energy up, all that greatness, man.
That's excellent. Well, and the great thing about being in Colorado, and I've said this to so many people, is that there's a lot of cross training. There's no real like egos. Like you'll have guys from other gyms just come in and train at Factory X just at random, like you were saying.
Yeah, definitely, man. Even like if they're just traveling through the state, but also just getting some altitude training is always great, man. Everybody kind of like there's a lot of Olympic centers out in Colorado, just getting that high elevation training. So it's nice to have just anybody walk in on any given day, man. And so it's great.
Now, you mentioned Scott Parker, a former NHLer. How did that come together? I had no idea about that. Now you got me really intrigued.
Right? Me? Oh, man, Scott Parker, he tweeted, I think one of my buddies, Josh Cavan, sent a tweet like, Scott Parker, Brandon Royval's fighting tonight, and he's a huge fan of yours. And he tweeted back at me. And then, like, just through his manager and, like, a couple people that we know, he comes to the gym kind of frequently. So I always get to go see him. I was a huge hockey fan my whole entire life. And especially during the brawling era and the fighting era, man, when hockey was a little violent. So seeing Scott Parker, man, it was like a huge deal. And like huge deal to like not only that, like to myself, but like a lot of my family and like just they're all huge Colorado Avalanche fans. So seeing him, man, like him and Cowboy are friends. So they come as like a package deal sometimes. So if Cowboy comes and trains at our gym, I get to see Scott Parker more. Like I said, I'm a huge Scott Parker fan. I was a huge hockey fan back in like especially when the Avalanche were doing really good. So it's just great to see that, man.
No, there's a lot of like weird MMA like and hockey related connections. Like which Scott Holtzman, who fights out of the lab, he's friends with James Neal, who used to play for Nashville. Now he plays for the Calgary Flames. He just got signed in the offseason. So it's kind of neat to see those because you'd think there's a lot of similarities. You know, there is the fighting. There's also a lot of physicality. Like it's kind of neat to see them come together.
And it's a fast-paced sport too, man. And
yeah.
I think a lot of us fighters are like, I don't know, I get really bored with like football where every 2 seconds there's a break in the play. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm already past my attention span, you know?
Yeah, I hear you on that. Let's talk about your last fight. Obviously, no one wants to win like that, but you get the win over Jerome Rivera at LFA 39. You must have been happy, though, just getting a win as well, you know, building up that record. You're now at 7-3.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I felt like the fight was going to go pretty brutally his way, honestly. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I definitely didn't want to win like that. And I definitely didn't want to I got caught on camera like, give me that title shot, give me that title shot. I just thought I like dropped him and then broke it or like kicked him in the face. So I was a little embarrassed afterwards. But like I said, I think the result was going to be a little bit of the same without the arm being broken, of course. But like I said, I felt like in that 30 seconds, 40 seconds before his arm broke, I established a lot of dominance over him, including like dodging his punches, making sure he had a longer range than me. He was a taller fighter, and he couldn't reach me at all. And I closed distance. I dropped him once, all within the 30 seconds of us fighting. So, like I said, I think the result was going to be a little bit of the same. It's just unfortunate that his arm had a break, and that a young kid like that and such a talented fighter is going to have to take a little bit of a break instead of go right back at it.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, right.
But no, I mean, I was going to ask you that. You know, what did you take away from that performance? Because, like I said, you were looking good. You know, heading in before that had happened. So I imagine you must take the positives of that into this fight.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I think Charles Johnson's a little bit of a taller opponent too. He's not as tall as Jerome and lengthier as Jerome, but yeah, man. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything to take away from that specifically. I think they're two different people, and just more of like don't let your emotions get to you right after a fight. Because right away I was like, I deserve that fucking title shot right there, you know. And then it's like, oh, that's how it happened. I'm not going to get that title shot. So kind of had to pump my brakes a little bit. And I don't know. I guess, a whole lot of nothing I can really take away from that fight, except for just I got a couple followers on Instagram because of it, and I'll take that. That's the only positive from it.
Okay, fair enough. You talk a little bit about training camp there. Is it just the same training partners for this camp as far as the bodies you get to work with?
Man, I think this one was a little unfortunate. Obviously, two of my main training partners were injured. Sid was injured, so that takes away my number one training partner. And then one of my big buddies, John Allen, was injured. So as far as I got a little bit of different looks. But as far as like Sid being out of training it was unfortunate for both of us, honestly. I could step up and take the fight for him, but at the same time, I lose one of my best training partners in the process of all of it.
Yeah.
But always at Factory X, man, we're building such a dominant flyweight team that it's kind of crazy. Every day I feel like someone new is like, oh, I'm a 25er coming to train here. I'm like, what? All right, this is going to be awesome. So, yeah, on a weekly basis, I have a new training partner, a new toy to come play with or whatever it is,
Yeah, no, that's a luxury, and your team's on a roll right now. I was saying this to someone the other day. You had James Krause winning on Saturday, big win for him. You had Anthony Smith a little while ago. You had Devontae Smith. You had Ian Heinisch. All these guys getting really big victories. Like I imagine things, the morale must be pretty high right now at the gym.
Yeah, man, and that's another great point that you can make right there. It's just like you see everything good happening around you, and you see people like making their dreams come true, and you're like, this isn't so unrealistic, we're all right there. I have a couple of training partners that are like 1 or 2 fights away from being in the UFC, and in myself included, so it's just cool to like look around and be like, all right, well, like we're all doing this. Like this dream isn't like unreasonable. When I trained at a smaller gym, it was like I was the only professional fighter, and it's like it seems so far away and so unreasonable. But like right now, it just doesn't seem out of grasp at all. It seems like this is very attainable dream. So I'm excited, man. I'm excited for the future of Factory X. When I first walked in, everybody was doing big things, and it seems like every year, every month, someone takes a bigger plunge and does something greater. And it's just inspiring every day to be around people that are just making it all come true.
A big part of training camp is obviously recovery. I know you've been linked up with Terphouse. What are you using for recovery during this camp as far as healing up those bumps and bruises?
Me, 100%. I don't use anything else but Terphouse stuff. I don't even do protein or anything. The only thing I do is CBD oil. So as far as Terphouse goes, man, they been a huge benefit for everything I've done. Like I said, I would just stay with all that natural Terphouse stuff. Colorado, see everybody in Colorado is like a huge proponent of CBD and always promotes it. So having a sponsor like Terphouse is pretty wonderful for me, and also just my recovery and everything. Yeah, so great.
Yeah, and I was going to say, too, you got a couple teammates there now, obviously using the products as well. You got Chris Camozzi. I know Devontae Smith just signed up. King Cage, he's been using it. So it's good to see that it's kind of becoming a standard now. A lot of fighters I talk to, not even just Terphouse, but, they are using the CBD oil, and I think they're seeing the benefits, and obviously not an issue with USADA. So there's a lot of just pluses from taking it.
Yeah, of course, man. It's really great, and I'm really glad to have that Terphouse sponsor around and be like one of the first athletes kind of underneath them.
That's right. Yeah, you were one of the OGs, as they say. September 7th, how do you see this fight playing out with you and Charles Johnson? I mean, tough opponent, 7-1, but you've been on a roll yourself.
Yeah, man, I don't really this one's going to be a little hard for me to see playing out any which way. Mm-hmm. All the videos I've watched them are super old. I know I had a couple old videos recorded them from like LFA, and I've watched him a few times just before I even knew his name or before I knew we were ever going to fight. I kind of stalk everybody in the flyweight division, especially if they're ranked higher than me. So I knew a little bit about him before I even started fighting him, or before he was even an opponent for Sid. So as far as it, man, he's a hard opponent to find any good videos on. All of his videos were about 5 years ago, and I assume he's gotten a lot better since then. If he hasn't, then it's going to be a fucking showcase for me. So, but I assume he's gotten a lot better from then. He's a pretty good wrestling base. Striking base. I mean, he's not afraid to strike, but as far as like the videos I've seen, they've been fairly old, so hard to get a good grasp of what he's doing. But another good indication of like a fighter that doesn't have much video on him, it tells me he's a little boring, man. LFA doesn't put videos out of their stuff unless they're exciting fights. So I don't know. That's what I kind of assume from all of it. It's not the most exciting fighter. At the same time, there's the fights that I have watched 5 years ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago that were like he's trying to push the pace. But as far as I think I'm the scarier fighter of us two. I think I'm the more deadlier everywhere we go. So I'm excited to see what the hell he has and show him what the hell I got,
Yeah. No, we're excited for it. Has LFA told you, the winner of this fight, if they are going to get the next title shot? Because I would imagine you guys are at the top of the heap right now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't really necessarily even care about that. Like I said, I was super hyped about the title shot after that Jerome fight. I was thinking, like, I start this kid or I beat this kid, or at least put like a nice little highlight together. I can get this. Title shot going for me. But as far as now, man, I want to put a clinic on this guy. I want to put a highlight reel on him. I want to elevate myself to the highest, and hopefully get on that UFC Denver card, man.
So I was gonna say, yeah.
I want to put a showcase on in any way I can to get on that UFC Denver card. Is my main goal. So hopefully Charles Johnson wants to be at the end of my highlight reel. So we'll see.
Good stuff. Before we let you go, talk a little hockey off the top. We'll end this with some hockey. How do you think the Avs are going to do this season? It's interesting. They had kind of a bounce back year, from the year before that. So I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. We'll see what happens this season.
Man, I'll always be a huge Avs fan. I haven't been following hockey since maybe like the last 5 years. I played hockey for a while, which is kind of crazy, but I played hockey for a while, stopped growing, started getting owned too much, and yeah, so I played double hockey. That's kind of where a lot of the only athleticism you can say I have comes from. But man, I'm rooting for the Avs. I always go for the Avs. I'm kind of a fair weather fan now. If they're doing good, I'll pay a little more attention than not. Right. But as far as I'm so wrapped up in all the bullshit that I do on a daily basis, wrapped up with all the MMA fights, I don't really have time to follow any other sports.
Well, we certainly got to follow this fight. It's coming up here September 7th. It's LFA 48. It's going to be live on Access TV. Brandon, always appreciate the time, man. Just remind people where they can find you on social media, and if you have any sponsors or shout-outs, the floor is yours.
Okay. I'm Brandon Royval everywhere. As far as Instagram, Facebook, it's just Brandon Royval. Sponsors, of course, Terphouse. Terphouse is the main sponsor for me. They do a lot for me. They do a lot for a lot of us fighters too, man. So I appreciate everything they do. I think I have a new sponsor coming out. I don't want to release their name quite yet, just in case it doesn't work out. Right, but I want to thank Ace Towing, man. Ace Towing helps me out a lot. They help my company out a lot, so they do a lot for me and all that good stuff, man. But as far as that, I think I'm good on other sponsors for now.